All right, and we're just waiting for Kristen to get back from the front of the building. She's helping guide people back here, and then we'll get started. And I am recording this, and it's being transcribed. All right, hello everyone. First off, my name's Tia. I'm a sustainability coordinator here at the Sustainability Office, and I help oversee the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant. And thank you so much everyone online and here in person for joining us. It's really exciting to see everyone here with interest in both the Beautification Action and Neighborhood Sustainability Grants. We're going to just start off with a round of introductions. We do, I think, quickly go through everyone that's here because, you know, it's nice to be in person and virtually have community members gathering. So we'll kick it off with the folks in the room and then go to the virtual folks. Would you like to get us started?
Sure, what do you want me to say? Just name?
Just name, and if you're here with an organization and maybe what grant you're interested in.
Awesome. So my name is Jenna Gibson. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here as part of Beyond the Pines, their local therapy practice. So we're interested in doing group psychotherapy with the climate crisis. So sustainability grant.
My name is Anok. Also use she, her pronouns, and I'm just here with myself, and I'm interested in a beautification grant, and I'm also just interested in learning about what kinds of grants are available and how I might be able to connect people in the future. I know the deadline's coming really soon for this round, but I also know that it comes up like every 6 months or so. So it'd be great to have the information and start cooking up some other ideas.
Cool, thank you. Just a quick sound check. Can you all hear okay online? Sweet. Okay, sweet.
I'm Ben, he, him, and I am here sort of on behalf of Coconino High School, where I'm a teacher, and we were interested in, I think a sustainability grant is probably where it falls best.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, she, her pronouns, and I'm just here as an individual who's interested. I have an interest in permaculture and like others here, I'm just here to learn more about how these grants might aid some of the areas I'm interested in.
Hi everyone, my name is Sharon Sipling. I'm with Coconino County Health and Human Services, but I'm here to assist Flagstaff Family Food Center applying for our grant. We would be a partner.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Kevin White, he, him. I am currently chair of the Flagstaff Sustainability Commission.
And my name is Kristen Crudito, and I'm the Art Collections and Beautification Coordinator for the City of Flagstaff.
Thanks. And then moving to our virtual audience crew. Summer, do you want to kick us off?
Hi, everyone. My name's Summer. I'm here representing both Flagstaff Family Food Center as we are trying to apply for the sustainability grant and partner with Coconino Health and Human Services with Sharon. And then I'm also representing Flagstaff Food Link so that we can share these resources with our local growers.
Carla?
Hello, I'm Carla Keaton. I'm actually just representing myself. I'm an individual artist. Actually, I reside in Phoenix, but I've been trying to escape to Flagstaff for many years and relocate there at some point.
Thank you. Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Taylor, and I'm with Northland Hospice and Palliative Care. We're interested in the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant.
Thank you. David?
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Miggins, and I am here tonight representing Congregation Love Shalom, which is a Reformed synagogue located on the corner of 7th and Patterson. We're interested to some extent in both grants, but know that one of them is due in a week and the other one is due in a week, but there's another deadline in March. So we're looking to flesh that out in March, the beautification grant. We are interested in potentially doing a mural on our wall facing 7th Avenue. And sustainability is definitely something that we are very, very interested in. And project TBD, but we'll probably apply for both grants. And I'm very excited to see the food center here this evening in summer because we support the Flagstaff Family Food Center in many, 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 many ways.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Nora?
Hi, I'm here as an individual and I'm just honestly here to learn. I kind of stumbled upon this and thought it was exciting, so yeah. We'll see
Sweet.
where this goes.
All right, I'm admitting one more person right now too. Ashley, welcome. We're just going through introductions and we're on the virtual folks, so you'll probably go last, but on to Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Shadian, and along with David Miggins, I'm here representing Congregation Love Shalom, and he already gave you the whole spiel, so I'm just happy to be here.
Thanks, Jamie. Carrie?
Hi, I'm Carrie. I am just a community member trying to learn more about the grants to see if there's one that might apply to my local neighborhood. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. And Ashley?
My name is Ashley Stump, and I'm here representing Flagstaff Church of the Nazarene, and we are interested in the environmental grants.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'll pull up the beautification and action presentation and hand it off to Kristen. Make sure this works.
So when I went through this today, it for some reason just advanced on its own. So if I say stop,
Okay.
just hit pause.
Okay.
That's technology.
We'll see what happens. Do we want? Let's see. About content. That's not what we want.
There we go.
That's a bit better, yeah.
Okay, so, I'll just stay over here. Okay, I'll give you room.
Here, I'm gonna give you the mouse if
Okay.
you'd like to advance the slide.
And just click the button.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the next button.
So again, my name is Kristen. I'm with the City of Flagstaff Beautification Arts and Sciences Program. And one of my responsibilities is overseeing the beautification and action grants. And so this evening, we will be going through them. And we'll provide an overview. We'll discuss the application process. I will provide you with some recent examples. So perhaps those of you who might be interested in a beautification action grant, but you might not know what type of project you would like to do, maybe you'll be inspired. And then we will conclude with a few questions. So what are beautification in action grants? They are community mini grants for publicly accessible and publicly visible art and beautification projects that beautify our built environment. So they beautify this man-made environment. They are funded by the Bed, Board, and Beverage Tax, which we know is generated by Flagstaff's hotels, motels, bars, and restaurants. And up to $4,500 is available per project. So I have a little bullet here that says half can be used for artist contractor fees and half for materials. So again, you can apply up to $4,500 for a project. What types of projects? Beautification in Action grants take the form of both public art and landscaping projects. So those of you who are here specifically or thought maybe you were specifically here this evening to apply for some sustainability grants, you might find too that you can also apply for a Beautification in Action grant. So public art can take the form of murals, mosaics, and sculptures. Maybe you want to do a landscaping project. Maybe you want to install a community or pollinator garden in your neighborhood or in a common area. Maybe you want to do a site improvement on a corner in your neighborhood. Perhaps you would like to add some benches, pathways, and/or flowers to your neighborhood or again in a common area. The most important thing to remember is that your project must be a physical project. Who can apply? I should say who can't apply. So artists can apply, community individuals, community groups, local businesses, schools, nonprofit organizations. So if you're an artist and you're interested in applying for Beautification Action Grant, you have a project in mind but you might not know where this project fits, you could contact me. And maybe I know of a nonprofit organization that is looking for a project or a community group or a local business that wants a mural. When in doubt, reach out. So when you submit your Beautification in Action grant, it will ultimately be reviewed by our Beautification and Public Art Commission. And they are looking for specific things in your grant application. They want to make sure that your application is clear, complete, and compelling, and that it conforms with the program purpose. And with that said, I have included the Beautification Arts and Sciences Program mission statement here below. And then they also want to know the feasibility of your project budget and schedule. So, having written grants for many years, grant applications can be very scary and very overwhelming. At least they are for me. And I would like to say that the grant application for Beautification Action Grants is fabulously simple and very brief. So if you haven't checked out the grant application, it is online, and here is the link to that. And with that application, there are also guidelines that I urge you to review. And these guidelines talk specifically about the types of eligible projects. So it goes into more depth about what is mandatory within your application, what is strongly recommended, what is encouraged, what is discouraged, and what is not allowed. So that guidelines packet is really going to be instrumental as you move through the application process. And we have 2 grant deadlines every year. One is September 15th, so next week. Fear not, you can do it, and I'm here to help you. And if that is too overwhelming, then go for the March 15th. But again, I'm here to assist in every step of the way. We want our grant applicants to be successful. Last grant cycle, we awarded 5 grants. We'd like to double it this time. So you can give me a call, we can meet virtually, we can meet in person, you can email me. I will answer any question for you. And an example of that is most recently this week, there was a business that wants to do a mural on Route 66, utilizing the lyrics to the song Get Your Kicks on Route 66. So we went down the rabbit hole of determining whether those lyrics were copyrighted, which they are, but there are phrases that are not. So we went through with legal, I should say I didn't go through, our legal department did, and bless them. And so we'll do things like that for you. Or another applicant wants to do little lending libraries in her neighborhood. So I sent her just a bunch of information to make sure that she includes in her grant application, and we're meeting next week so I can review that for her before she submits it. Okay, so the timeline for this fall grant cycle, again, the deadline is September 15th at 5 p.m. In October, applications will be reviewed by the Beautification and Public Art Commission. And then if your application is initially approved, then in November, you would come and do a very brief presentation to BPAC, about 5 minutes, with a 5-minute Q&A. And then if approved, you can receive up to 90% of the grant monies after that approval. You have 1 year to complete your project. And then the final step is to submit a final report, very brief, final invoice, and then of course you celebrate for a job well done and beautifying your community. So I know that some of you might be familiar with BIA projects in Flagstaff and some of you may not. So I'm including some recent projects or soon to be completed projects that might spark your imagination. This project is going in at Cosmic Rays Tunnel at Sheep Crossing Trail, and it's entitled Cosmic Rays Tunnel of Love by artist Joel Geist. And Joel was awarded a Beautification Action Grant this past spring. And he is doing a 2-part mural cycle in this tunnel, which connects the Ponderosa Trails neighborhood to Fort Tuthill. And his artwork pays homage not only to the Basque sheep herding tradition, but also to Cosmic Ray, who was a beloved figure in the hiking and mountain biking community in Flagstaff. Here you see Joel on the left painting one of the murals, and on the right is a rendering of what will be on the other side of the tunnel. And I was just out there riding the other day, and the mural looks pretty much exactly like this rendering. It's a beautiful piece of art. Here's another example of a project. This one was by Grand Canyon Youth, and they decided to redo the landscaping on the southern end of their building, and they were helped by community members to do the installation. Again, 2 new additions. The one on the left is located at Beaver and Dale, and this individual, she was a community member. Her name was Margaret Morrison. She's a resident of the condominiums there, and she wanted to beautify and enliven the very drab utility cabinets that we see across our city. And so she commissioned, with grant monies, artist Jill Sands to enliven this particular corner. And we have an installation in LaRue Alley by artist Dana Camberg, and the Flagstaff Downtown Business Alliance was the grant recipient. Flagstaff Leadership Program, they decided to revitalize the garden at Puente de Hoyo School, elementary school. So they removed all of the invasive plants. They worked with Terra Birds and the Arboretum of Flagstaff, and they planted more than 120 resilient and native plants. And then this mural is by a Hopi Tewa artist named Dwayne Koyowena. And the grant recipient is the Chocolita Chocolate Cafe. So the owner of Chocolita Chocolate Cafe, Sarah Ann Leslie, she wanted to beautify the wall that was adjacent to her business. And she selected Dwayne. And so here is a celebration of Hopi culture, utilizing Hopi iconography, in particular pottery patterns juxtaposed with Hopi gods. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the organizations that I work with, I'm not necessarily intending to represent today, but I am very active at my kids' school, Pine Forest Charter School.
Okay.
And so that is technically a public school. So if would that organization potentially qualify for something on their grounds?
Absolutely, as long as it is publicly accessible and publicly visible. And there is a gray area there. So let's say that the school did a mural on the exterior of their building, and let's say that there's a chain link fence in front of that mural. And at night, they lock that fence.
Right.
The artwork, the project itself is still publicly visible. So again,
Okay.
that would qualify, that would be eligible. So you have to think of, when I approach publicly accessible and visible, the easiest way to think about it is one would have to have access to that site or to that project 24/7, 365 days a year.
Okay.
But again, there are those little gray areas like that example that I just gave you. But absolutely, schools are eligible, or actually NAU might be submitting a grant application either in September or in March to potentially do some projects on the campus with students.
Sounded like maybe there was someone trying to join potentially. I think
So question for you.
Sure.
I think you kind of alluded to it. An agency can apply for both grants.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And we have had grant applicants previously be awarded both a sustainability grant and a beautification action grant.
I do have a couple of questions. First of all, is it possible to get a digital copy of this slideshow?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can be sure to send both presentations out after.
And then you said that you awarded 5 grants last year and you're looking to double that to 10. Is that for both grant cycles or each grant cycle?
We awarded 5 grants. And this year, yes, we are looking to double that. So we would like to award 10 grants up to $4,500 for each project.
So total though, the whole year, including both the fall and spring grant cycles, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that question?
Sure. So for 10 total, including both the September 15th deadline and March 15th deadline, the two different times, correct? So 10 total for the year.
No, actually, I need to correct myself. My apologies. We could do 10 this grant cycle and 10 the next grant cycle.
Okay, perfect. And then there's another question I had. Oh, can you clarify the half and half for artist commission, half for materials? What happens if one costs less? So it's a little bit of clarification on that. So if an artist is willing to donate their time, can we have $4,500 for supplies, or does it have to be half and half, et cetera?
No, great question. And this one is always confusing. It's still confusing for me. And this will be my second grant cycle with the city. So let's say you're applying for a grant and it's $4,500, if that's what you're asking for. And let's say, let me think of a recent project. Let's take the project at the Sheep Crossing Tunnel. So Joel Geist was awarded $4,500. $2,250 was for paint brushes, paint, tarps, a ladder, etc. And then he received $2,250 to actually paint that particular work of art. So your you can think of it in half and half. $2,250 for materials, $2,250 for the artist fee. But let's say you have community volunteers, which was the case of the garden restoration at Puente de Hojo. Then you can go up to $4,500 in materials if you have volunteers to do the installation for you.
So the maximum is only on the artist fees.
The maximum is, okay, so then there's another gray area. I don't want to confuse you. And those of you, if you're working through this in your application and you're like, I'm so confused, give me a call, we'll go through it together. But let's say that you have, you want to do a mural and your materials only add up to $1,000. Then that artist fee can only be $1,000. So your artist fee has to match the materials. And that's that kind of tricky, confusing gray area.
I see.
I have a quick question, Kristen. If people like see an area in the city where they want to do a project, but they don't know like either who owns it, and then also like artists, how do people find artists that are willing to do it?
So again, contact me. So we'll be able to tell you if that area is private property or if it's owned by the city. Either way, you would need to get permission to do a project at that location from either the city or that owner of the private property. An email would suffice, or a letter on letterhead. And if you're looking for artists, I can assist you as well. And so that's one example of that is that the wrapped utility cabinet on Beaver and Dale by Jill Sands. We provided the grant applicant with dozens of artists in the community, and she took those recommendations back to the residents of her condo complex, and they ultimately selected Jill Sands. So yes, we have an extensive list of artists and muralists and sculptors and welders, and we can share those out.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, if you have any more questions, again, feel free to give me a call, send me an email, and there's still time. So there are lots of days until next Friday, so I can help you apply for Beautification Action Grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. All right. Stop sharing the other presentation and open up the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant one. How did I do that last time?
That was it.
Yeah. Can you all see the presentation okay online? Thanks, Summer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alrighty, so we already briefly introduced ourselves. My name's Tia. I work for the Sustainability Office, and I'm a Sustainability Coordinator, and I help oversee the grant from the staff side of things.
And my name is Kevin White, and I am current chair of the Sustainability Commission. And the Sustainability Commission basically acts as the committee to decide which applicants are awarded funding for neighborhood sustainability grants. It's really one of our big projects for each year.
Yeah, thank you. So the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Program aims to, sorry, one second, go on both screens, aims to inspire creative projects that enhance community sustainability and fosters community partnerships. Grant applications are accepted once per year in September. Applications this year are due on September 30th, and this year awards up to $7,500 are available, which means depending on who applies and who gets awarded, we have, at least 10 projects available to fund, but you certainly don't have to go up to that 7,500 to be considered or be funded. And then funding will most likely be awarded to chosen recipients in January 2024. All right, so who is eligible for the grant? Individuals, groups, nonprofits, and local businesses are all eligible to apply. Projects must be within Flagstaff city limits. Projects can be an improvement or expansion of an existing project, or it can be a brand new project. And successful applicants are eligible for one grant award every other fiscal year. So people that got the grant award last year aren't eligible this year. And then if you got the grant this year, you wouldn't be eligible until 2025. And then you're also only eligible for one neighborhood sustainability grant in a year. Okay. All right. This top part goes over who cannot be awarded the grant. It's pretty straightforward. I'll highlight this bottom portion, which is what the grant funding cannot be used for. No more than 50% of funds can pay for compensation or salaries or prizes to that effect. To purchase land or buildings, funding can be used for that. And then purchases made prior to January 1st, 2024. And then exceptions to this policy can be made by the Sustainability Commission. All right, so now we're going to get into the major meat of the grant, which is these overarching kind of community-centered goals, the different sustainability project categories, and then those category objectives. While we go through these, definitely start thinking about the project that you already have in mind or what your project could be, and definitely jot down any questions you have so we can get to them. All right, so the overarching goals of the grant, this is kind of where that neighborhood part, this is where that neighborhood part of the grant comes in. All grant projects should incorporate community members, whether it's through volunteer engagement or management, building community partnerships, or involving in a meaningful way historically underserved communities, diverse groups, or vulnerable populations. All grant projects must incorporate at least 2 of these goals, and the highest scoring projects will incorporate all 3. All right. And then your grant project should fall into one of these 7 categories of sustainability. It's highly likely that your project will overlap multiple categories, but you're going to want to pick the one that's most appropriate. Each of these categories has its own objectives that we're going to go through in the next following slides. So if you're unsure, just looking at this list of 7 categories: food, waste, climate action, resilience, building energy, transportation, and public health, then work backwards from the category objectives that we're going to share with you to figure out your category. All right, let's dive into the category specific objectives. So the food category objectives.
It hasn't switched slides up there.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. All right, yes, the food category objectives. Each of the category objectives include an educational and engagement component. That's kind of a given that you're gonna be engaging with community members, so it's a pretty simple one to add in there since you have to meet those community overarching goals. So for the food category objectives, it's promoting through education and engagement, improved access to a sustainable and equitable food system that produces healthy food for the community. The second objective is increasing food recovery efforts, especially for communities experiencing food insecurity. And then lastly, it increases pollinator habitat through conservation and/or education efforts. You need to achieve at least 2 of these category objectives, but the highest scoring projects will achieve all 3, but you don't have to be the highest scoring project. Yeah. And then Kevin's going to share an example of a real life project.
Yeah, so we get a lot of community gardens for this particular category, which we love because a lot of those are really cool. But the one we chose to share for this one, there is a basically a transitional living facility called New Living, and they have a chicken coop where they keep chickens to provide food and to help teach residents how to handle chickens and whatnot. And they got a grant to basically upgrade their chicken coop. They enlarged it. They enlarged it. They made it so it was both nicer for chickens and also more accessible for their residents. And they added a lot of other things to it as well. So yeah, that's one example of a project in the food category that got funding. I think that was about 2 years ago, or was it last year?
It wasn't last year.
Okay, 2 years ago, I think.
Okay. All right, and then next up is the waste or waste reduction category objectives. The first category objective is promoting proper waste reduction behavior, such as recycling or composting through education and infrastructure development. The next objective is promoting a business model that redirects materials from the landfill. And lastly, increases access and knowledge to sharing economy and reuse opportunities.
Yeah, this is a project I think from what was probably 3 or 4 years ago. But there's a group that basically wanted to called Compost Crowd, that basically wanted to start a compost gathering business that would have a branch here in Flagstaff. And they needed, a trailer to do it. And so they applied for funding for a trailer and they got a trailer. So they've been up, and last I checked, they're still operating here in Flagstaff. So that's, if you want food waste picked up for them to compost, that's something that they can do for you. So that's an example of a project that got funding in the waste category.
All right, next up is the climate action category objectives. These include, of course, the educational and engagement component. So this is educating and engaging on either the impacts of climate change in Flagstaff and or reducing emissions. And then next is reducing greenhouse gas emissions associated with energy use in buildings, transportation, or consumption. And then lastly is encouraging community members to take local climate action.
Thanks. So an example of a project that received funding in this category, there's a basically there's a group in town called Nazca, which is I'm trying to remember. So Northern Arizona Climate Change Action
Alliance.
Oh, sorry, Alliance. Thank you. And they basically got funding to set up a series of seminars about climate change and what can be done about it. So I think we paid for small stipends for different speakers, and we also paid for, the grant money also paid for equipment to do those seminars and a few other things like that. So, yeah. I basically cover everything, I think I did. Yeah, they did a few extra, they did a series of seminars, including one for Earth Day and a few others, with NEU and a few things like that. So it was worthwhile.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, and of course, the next category is resilience. These include the education and engagement of community members on resilience and adaptation concepts. The next category objective is providing opportunities for community connections to share knowledge and or skills. And lastly, strengthening community systems by improving community preparedness to a variety of disasters and events.
So an example of this project is Meteor Crater Community Radio. They basically, this is a radio, basically a community radio station that was just getting started a couple years ago. They're operating out of basically Meteor Crater, and they they basically had in their grant, they wanted money for a variety of pieces of equipment, basically to get their community radio project going, which we were thankfully able to fund. So you know, it's community radio is always a worthwhile thing to have, and it's especially useful in instances of you know, emergencies or disasters or whatnot. It's community radios become really radio projects become really valuable. So yeah, we were able to fund some of the enough of their equipment to get them started, or to help get them started at least.
All right. Next up, we have the category of building energy. These objectives include the promotion of energy conservation through education, and then increasing use of renewable energy in community buildings, and reducing building energy and or building water use, because that is also connected to building energy.
So this was one from last year. There's a local church, Harbor Chapel, and they put in a grant to upgrade a bunch of their buildings' energy systems. So they got lighting and wiring upgrades that are going to enable them to save a lot of energy over the next, well, probably basically forever. At least for a very long time. And they, you know, they use their church as a community hub as well. So it's a pretty big benefit for our community overall for them to be able to do that.
All right, next up is our public health category objectives. And the objectives include the education and engagement on public health and environmental issues, and increasing access to public health resources, and or improving social environmental conditions to improve health or preparedness to emergencies such as climate-related health threats.
Thank you. And a recent one that we had for this. So this elementary school, I think it is, Punto de Hojo. They were building this fairly large and elaborate bicycle course. And the funding that they were asking for was really only a very small part of this, but they basically wanted to put in as a gazebo to offer some extra shade for people who were using the facilities, and we were able to offer them funding for that as well.
Yeah, I'll highlight that this is definitely one of those projects that could have gone in a variety of categories, but they focused on the public health benefits of increasing accessibility to the bike park itself, building community, as well as the benefits of the shaded area to the community and bike park users. All right, and last but certainly not least is the transportation objectives, which include education and engagement of community members on ways to walk, bike, roll, and take transit more, as well as increasing access to or reducing barriers to alternative modes of transportation. And lastly, improving neighborhood mobility or transportation options infrastructure.
So this is, so one of our recent projects in this category, Flagstaff Disc Golf Club wanted to put some bike racks in some, near some local disc golf courses that didn't have them. And, you know, I'm always excited for that because I'm always up for putting more bike racks in places that need them. But yeah, that was basically it. They just asked for money, for a little bit of money to install some bike racks in a couple of local disc golf courses, and we were able to provide that.
Yeah. All right, so moving into some more aspects of the application. So applications are submitted through the SurveyMonkey link at the top of the grant webpage, which let me show you all that really quick if you aren't familiar. And I know, okay, virtual is not going to be able to see this, but I will drop it in the chat so you can open it up. All right, so at the very top of the web page is the link to the SurveyMonkey application, and then the full grant guidelines and application information. And most of this information is also included on the web page below. I will also highlight that the Word document and PDF versions of the application questions are able to be downloaded here. And we highly recommend that you complete your answers in one of these two options before going into the SurveyMonkey in case it times you out and you lose your answers. It's happened before. Yeah, just highlighting that. Okay. And then, so applications are due by September 30th, and then in the month of October are reviewed by the Sustainability Commission. We will have the opportunity to ask questions of applicants. If there's anything unclear, we want to be able to give applicants and the commission an opportunity to have that exchange to improve applications after the fact if needed. And then you will be notified of those questions by November 3rd, and they'll be due by November 10th back to the commission. And then during the November commission meeting, which is one of the exceptions to the fourth Thursday of the month, just due to the holiday, usually happens around or the week after, or week before, a week after. Or it's combined with the December one too. Those decisions are made then, and then you will be notified shortly after that. Did anyone else say that? Thanks. Okay. All right, and then I'll hand it off to Chair White.
Thanks. So yeah, and so you all know we did do a fairly extensive sort of review and overhaul of the scoring system, and our complete scoring rubric is or will be, I think is right now publicly available. Basically, you can get it as part of your grant application, and you don't have to fill out the scoring rubric or anything, but I would suggest reading through the scoring rubric if you're applying for the grant, just as before you fill it out, just so you're aware of like what we're looking for and what we're doing things based on. So the way that grants are going to be reviewed is every grant, so we're expecting enough grants this year that it was becoming untenable. We thought to have every single commissioner review every single grant. So grants will be basically randomly distributed among the different commissioners. Each commissioner will, each grant will be reviewed by at least 3 commissioners. And in order to help facilitate that, that's part of why we instituted the scoring rubric. I'm not trying to apply I'm not trying to apply an image of objectivity, because there are still many subjective elements to it. But we wanted the scoring process to be as transparent as possible, and to make sure that all the commissioners were on the same page as to, just broadly speaking, what different scores would be appropriate in what situations. Not that that was ever a serious problem in the past, but given that we're not all scoring every grant application this year, we just thought it was appropriate. So basically whichever, for the most part, whichever grants score higher will get, the highest will get funded. And we will generally review a few of the grants on the borderline to see if there's any particular, where can we find the rubric? Do you have an answer for that, Tia?
Yes, it is linked on our webpage,
Cool.
which I just dropped in the chat. If you have any trouble finding it, I can send it to you as well. Or at the very end of this presentation, I can share the screen for everyone and close out the presentation and scroll and show everyone where to find it.
Okay, thank you, Tia, and thank you for the good question, Ashley. So generally, whichever whichever applications are scored the highest will be the ones that get funded. We will review whichever ones are near the borderline. We will review in our November Sustainability Commission meeting, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with those, and to give everyone a chance to give all the commissioners a chance to put in any input that they feel is needed. So that's basically how that's expected to go. So here's, just to summarize sort of what's on the rubric, these are the different categories that applications will be scored on. Hopefully they're mostly fairly straightforward. Again, the specifics of the scoring are in the rubric, but we won't get into all of that here and now. But application, so the first one is application clarity and completion. Basically this is, do we have the information that we need to make an informed decision on how to score this application? And there are a lot of these categories. Things from the categories will come up more than once. Like, if we don't have a complete application, then that application will probably be scoring low in other areas as well because of that. But we wanted a category specifically for that too. Feasibility of budget and timeline, basically how realistic do we think that your project is, especially within the timeline and budget that's being proposed. Conformity with overarching goals. This is how well does your application conform to the goals of the grant overall. And so when you're writing out your application, just keep in mind what are the goals of the overall grant, in addition to sustainability. And then you'll also recall that for each of the different categories that you can put your project into, each of those had a certain set of goals as well. And so the next score is, how well does your project conform to the goals of its specific category? And for both broad project goals and for category specific goals, you do need to have at least some relation to 2 of the 3 of those goals in order to be considered for funding. Again, I do want to reiterate with this though, even though you do need to meet all 3 you do need to be related to all three of the goals, and each of those things to be awarded full points. You don't need full points to be, you don't need full points to be awarded funding. Most years, personally, most years I'll see maybe 1 or 2 grants that I will give, the maximum possible score to, but the very large majority of grants that end up receiving funding do not get full, do not get a perfect score. So just because, your grant doesn't exactly conform to all 3 of the goals, I would not let that discourage you from applying. Project rationale is probably the most subjective of these. It's basically just how, how worthwhile does the committee think your project is? What benefits do we think that it looks like your project will bring to the community? And in particular, like what kind of benefit per dollar do we think your project will bring to the community and to our sustainability goals? So if we could forward. Project innovation, we do want to encourage people to do things that we can learn from that are innovative. So there's a category for that. Same with longevity, we do want to encourage projects that the benefits of the projects will outlast the year that funding is being received. And then as a lot of you probably know, Flagstaff has committed to a timeline to become carbon neutral, and we strongly prefer to fund projects that help to move Flagstaff in that direction. So so projects that are aligned with our climate goals will get more points.
We'll highlight, like, they can't be in direct contradiction of our climate goals.
Yeah,
For example, if someone wants to upgrade a old gas furnace to a new gas furnace, we're gonna wanna be looking for an electric heat pump instead of a gas one, because the gas one will continue to create emissions, which contradicts the goals in the carbon neutrality plan.
Thank you, Tia.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of resources, because this is a new question and because the carbon neutrality plan is over 100 pages. That's why there's so many resources, and please reach out to me if you have any questions about how to answer this question, and I will help come up with an answer.
So you all know there is an abbreviated version of the climate neutrality plan, but also or the climate action and adaptation plan. That said, I think that that said, like, if there are certain gray areas, but generally speaking, if your proposed project doesn't have any significant new sources of greenhouse gases in it, then generally it won't run. It isn't likely to run afoul of this particular scoring category. All right.
All right, and then the post-award process includes meeting with me to finish all required documents, including a W-9, and to discuss and confirm final details about your budget and timeline. And then again, in January, funding is dispersed, and then you'll have a 12-month project period to complete your timeline. In the past, there have been, requests for extensions, and those are just brought in front of the commission, although not preferred. And then 1 year after funding is received, you will complete a final report survey and present in front of the commission at a recognition event. And thank you all for listening, and feel free to reach out to me at tia.hatton@flagstaffaz.gov, or my phone number is listed there. If you have any further questions or need assistance filling out the application, And then we have time for Q&A and one-on-one application help.
On the off chance you have a question for me in particular, then if you send a message to Tia and ask her to, she can forward the message to me as well.
Mhm. Any questions?
I have a question. You guys inspired me.
Excellent.
So, okay, one question is, the Family Food Center is looking at the beautification and sustainability. We're looking at, okay, it's kind of two-part, and maybe you can answer this. For the beautification, it's a community garden that's very primitive right now. So I don't know if it falls in that same improving and expanding it, and then we were also gonna do a mural. Can that fall in the beautification, or does that need to fall in the sustainability? Does it matter?
I think the mural can totally fall in the
Can you repeat your
beautification.
question? Sorry, I was emailing back an applicant with an inquiry.
So a community garden,
Okay.
there's a very primitive one there
Okay.
that's been there for a few years. It's been a collaboration. We want to expand it and put in a better system and make it sustainable through that, and then a mural behind it. We were going to use the Beautification and Action Grant for the mural and garden. Would that fall under the beautification, the garden?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then for sustainability, the inspiration was, could it pay for stipends for like a walking school bus for a school, if a school applied under that transportation category?
What would the money would be going towards?
Like an individual walking with the students?
Up to half, I think, is what would qualify under that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
potentially could.
500. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Oops.
I have a question.
Yes, Ashley.
How many of the sustainability grants are you guys looking to award?
Sorry.
You guys had a goal of 10 for the beautification grants, but
Yes.
for sustainability, do you guys have a goal in mind, or how many, is it limited? Or
So it's, so the answer is, we have a certain amount of money. I believe this year it's $75,000. The city council was very generous with, to us this year. And we will, what we will do is we will award grants until we run out of money. So,
Up to 7,500.
yes, thank you. So if all of the grants are $7,500 grants, then that will be then that will be 10 grants. However, if say for example, the average grant, if say that, let's say that a few of the grants, as they usually do, ask for less than $7,500, say that 3 of them ask for $5,000 instead of $7,500, then we can fund another project.
okay.
So, which is one reason that's, I strongly would encourage you to, if you only need $6,000, then don't try to puff that up to don't look for things to puff that up to 7,500, because it can actually affect your scoring, but B, again, the more if we don't have lots of people, asking for the full amount, then we can fund more projects. So yeah, we'll basically just go down the line of our top scoring projects until we run out of grant money. Does that answer your question?
Completely, yes.
Thank you for your question.
Any other questions in the room? Oh, Summer, we have one? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm sorry if any of these questions have been asked. We're having some technical difficulties over here, so.
Sorry.
No worries.
So we have a couple questions between myself and the other staff member who couldn't make it. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll just go through those.
Absolutely.
The first question that she had was, can we go over a draft of our grant application with a city staff member during the virtual grant office hours?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And then what type of reporting is needed do we need to provide if we do receive the grant?
It's a final report survey asking about the outcomes. And I would say the main things that you'll want to remember to keep is like your receipts as you purchase items. Otherwise, like you'll be able to answer it based on how the project went. And then we do request a couple photos too, once the project is completed.
We like to
Great. Oh, sorry.
we
Go ahead.
like to show we like to show off our awardees.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. But there's nothing else. So I guess our project involves composting. So we were talking about if we needed to keep a really good track of how many pounds is composted or anything like that.
I mean, that's it's not, I would say that something like that is not a requirement, but it would be a very helpful thing for us to know.
Okay.
Like that we like to show off our awardees, and so if you have a number for us that we can like brag to people about, it would be really nice.
Okay, great. And then what are you guys looking for in the letters of support? Do you have any specifics that you want the partners to write in the letter of support or anything like that?
So the letter, so the letters of support can serve a few different functions, and it depends on which function you want, you're expecting it to fill. Largely letters of support are, in particular, they're helpful if say that somebody wants to do a project that involves somebody else's property or requires somebody else's cooperation, then a letter of support from that person is, or from that community, or from like that community organization, if it's a school or something, that will go a long ways toward persuading us that the grant is feasible and realistic. Otherwise though, like if there's like other community members, if there's experts, if there's people that, if there's experts, people that can like vouch for the idea that your project would have a large impact, if there's people that would vouch for the reliability of the people, of the applicants, stuff like that can also be helpful. So, so yeah, I would say again, just to reiterate, like the most important function of those letters of support are to sort of affirm the cooperation of anybody whose cooperation the project will need to go forward. But if there's other relevant endorsements, then we'll certainly take them as well. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yes, thank you. And then the last question is, a part of the grant is to list additional funding sources. Is it encouraged to have additional funding sources?
I wouldn't say so. I would say, well, let me rephrase that. It is encouraged to the point of being almost necessary if your grant is of a scope that it will need if your grant is of a scope that it will need additional funding, then we want to know where that funding will come from. If your grant isn't of that scope, if the $7,500 can cover what you're wanting to do with it, then it's absolutely not necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the good questions.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna pull up the website really quick. If anyone doesn't want to spend the next 20 minutes doing one-on-one work or have additional questions, you're free to leave, but I'm gonna pull up the website right now. Great.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So, this is for my own ideas that I'm working on. So I'm working on this idea for an art installation for ArtX. and it's gonna be like sustainability focused, right? But I think there's certain parts of it that could be covered by ArtX, but maybe, for example, I wanna include like a lot of signage and things like that discuss and educate people about the sustainability stuff that's like not exactly artwork, but it would be educational. Can you combine grants for like a particular project?
Like between these two grants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a standalone project, it can be like hypothetically, be a part of something else.
And so you could, list also, thanks Carla, in your additional funding sources, beautification and action grant, and like what portion that's gonna fund and then what portion the sustainability grant is gonna fund and, yeah, cool.
And if I could just add to that too, talking about additional funding, what Kevin mentioned is very much in line with beautification action grants as well. And I will say that we had an example of a project that's going to be done on the south side. It's going to be a mural, a wheat pasted mural that reflects the Black experience on the south side. And so we awarded the applicant a full $4,500, but they needed to do additional fundraising because they found that their costs were going to be, I believe it's upwards of $8,000. And so they want to know, are they eligible? I mean, even though they didn't have this funding, could they still apply for the Beautification Action Grant? Absolutely. And we gave them contingent approval. So as soon as they raised 60% of that $8,000, we released the funds. And they did that through raising additional funds through a GoFundMe campaign. And maybe some of you have seen that for the mural on the south side, but that's another way to potentially raise for projects as well. So you can receive contingent funding. If you don't have that funding, extra funding source at the time of the application, that's okay. You just need to say how you're gonna get it.
Thank you for that. All right, I'm gonna share the webpage again. And go find that scoring rubric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so it's under this application review and disbursement process. Open the link in the tab and there it is. You don't have to rotate it, but yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you all.
Yep. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. And then lastly, I will also highlight those grant office hours that Summer had referenced. There's actually an additional date on here. So these are going to be virtual office hours where, we'll just be hanging out, doing some other work, and then if people drop in, we'll be there to answer any questions, help review the application, and you can schedule an appointment if you would like, but otherwise, there's gonna be a Teams link posted here that you can just join during these time periods as well, or you can call this number. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.